Hello. This is going to be another one of my album ranking videos. And before we get started, this is going to be my new image in my videos from now on. This woolly hat. You know how some YouTubers, like for example, Rambo Raff for Life. In every video that he does, he always wears that Rambo baseball cap. So in all of my videos from now on, I'm going to be wearing this woolly hat. I've just been wearing it. I've just been wearing it for the last few days, and I kind of like it. So yeah, this is going to be, So in all my videos from now on, well, I know not in I know in some videos I don't show my face, but in all the videos from now on where I do show my face, I'm going to be wearing this. So, let's get on with the ranking. So the band I'm ranking is Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd, and they need no introduction. We all know Pink Floyd. So there's 15 studio albums. So this is just my opinion. This is the order that I prefer them in. Now, I don't own every album by Pink Floyd. I only have 5 studio albums on CD. So all the ones that I don't own, I'll put a picture of them up on the screen so you can see what they look like, like I did when I did my Yardbirds ranking. And I do have a list I wrote down so that I can remember what order I put them in. Usually I wouldn't do that. If I had them all on CD, I'd just put the CDs in the ranking order. But because I don't have all the CDs, I'm writing them down so I remember what order I've put them in. So yeah, most of these I love. There's a few, the bottom few, maybe not so great, but yeah, let's get started. So number 15 is The Endless River from 2014. So this was the very last studio album to be released by Pink Floyd. And the album is mainly instrumental. There's only one track on the album that actually has lyrics, and that's Louder Than Words, which it is a good song. It's got David Gilmour on vocals, and it's a nice song. It's the instrumentals, however. I mean, some of them are okay, but on the whole, I find the album to be I just find myself struggling to get through the album. I find it kind of on the boring side. But, it has its moments, but it's it's not a great album, in my opinion. And the album, it's mainly leftovers from the Division Bell sessions. So, the album was released as basically a tribute to keyboardist Richard Wright, who died in 2008. But yeah, this album does feature his keyboard work because a lot of the stuff on here is from the Division Bell sessions. That's what I kind of would have preferred it if they, rather than just release this as an album, I think they should have just released it as bonus material for the Division Bell. Because I think there's a deluxe edition of the Division Bell. I'm not sure, but yeah, if they released like a deluxe version of the Division Bell, they could have just included that as bonus material. But yeah, I mean, although I think it is lucky that we even got anything new from Pink Floyd during the last decade. But yeah, Division Bell is number 15. And number 14 is A Momentary Lapse of Reason from 1987. So this is the first Pink Floyd album without Roger Waters, who left the band in 1985. And, well, first, this album, it doesn't feel like a Pink Floyd album. It feels like a David Gilmour solo album, which that's not a bad thing, but the production's not that great. And while there's a few good tracks, Learning to Fly is a good track. Dogs of War is pretty good as well. But yeah, the album is a little bit on the lackluster side, in my opinion. And yeah, and it doesn't. And this one, it does. It also does mark the return of Richard Wright, he was fired after the Wall sessions, but he does return for this album. But on here, he's not credited as an official member of the group. He's only credited as a session musician. So yeah, it doesn't feel like Pink Floyd. It feels like a David Gilmour solo album. And yeah, that's why it's number 14. Number 13, I actually do own on CD. Number 13 is The Division Bell from 1994. I like this just a little bit better than A Momentary Lapse of Reason. The good thing about this one, it does feel like, it feels like a Pink Floyd album, because A Momentary Lapse of Reason didn't really feel like a Pink Floyd album to me. This does feel more like a Pink Floyd album. And I do believe this was intended to be the last album, although it wasn't, because we had Endless River 20 years later, but this was intended to be their last record. And I do find the album to be somewhat lackluster, but there is some great tracks. I do really like What Do You Want From Me and High Hopes. You know, High Hopes is a really nice song, that's the last track on the album. And yeah, I love the church bells at the at the beginning, which I believe the bells could have been Ely Cathedral, because as you can see in the background there's Ely Cathedral. But yeah, it's not a bad album. But, you know, just like Momentary Lapse of Reason and Endless River, I do struggle to get through the album. I just find it to be a little bit boring at times. But I do feel that with a lot of the later Pink Floyd albums, you know. They're not top tier Floyd albums, but it's all right. Like even Endless River and Momentary Lapse of Reason, they're not bad. They're just okay to me. So that's number 13. Number 12 is The Final Cut from 1983. Now, this was the last Pink Floyd album with Roger Waters before he left 2 years later. And yeah, this doesn't feel like a Pink Floyd album. Like Momentary Lapse of Reason felt like a David Gilmour solo album. This feels like a Roger Waters solo album. And the album is basically a it was made as a sequel to The Wall, because The Wall was a concept album. This is a concept album as well, but it's a sequel to The Wall. But, you know, as a follow-up to The Wall, I think it's kind of disappointing. Although I don't think the album is bad, I do think it's, you know, it's just mediocre in my opinion. A lot of the ones that are ranked near the bottom of the list, to me, these are like kind of mediocre albums to me. But I really do love Not Now John. Not Now John is a great track. So the album is definitely worth getting just for that song alone. It's the only track on the album that is sung by David Gilmour, because all the other tracks on the album are sung by Roger Waters. But yeah, Not Now John is the only song on the album to be sung by David Gilmour. And on this one, I mean, it's the first album without Richard Wright, because he got fired after the Wall sessions. But yeah, even on this one, David Gilmour and Nick Mason, on here they're treated as session musicians rather than official band members. So yeah, Roger Waters is the only member of the group who actually sings and plays on every track, I think. Because yeah, I think there's like session guitarists and session drummers on this album, so David Gilmour and Nick Mason are not on every track. So it's really a Pink Floyd album in name only. just like Momentary Lapse of Reason is, but it's all right. You know, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, I suppose it's okay, but yeah, the album as a whole doesn't do a whole lot for me, but it is worth every penny just for Not Now John. Number 11 is Umaguma, or Umaguma. I never really knew how you pronounce it. From 1969. So, yeah, this is going way, way back. This is one of the early Floyd albums. Probably the only early Pink Floyd album that I struggle to get along with. It's a double album. So one of the discs is live and the other one is the studio tracks. Now, the live recordings on here are very good. They're very good. The studio stuff, however, is not so great. Except for the song Grantchester Meadows, which I think is a great song. You know, it's a great acoustic track, but the rest of it's just, I find it's just too avant-garde. I'm not really a fan of avant-garde music. So, you know, I just don't fully understand it. So, and I hate to say it because, you know, this album was released during, like, in my opinion, the 60s and the 70s was the best era for Pink Floyd for me. So this was released, you know, during, like, Pink Floyd's golden period for me. But yeah, I struggle to get through this album, but it is worth it just for the live stuff that's on it, and for Grantchester Meadows. So yeah, not a bad album, just it's all right. So now we're into the top 10. Now I can assure you that all the albums from here on I actually do like quite a lot. I'm sure you're probably tired of me slagging off Pink Floyd's albums, but I can assure you everything from here on I actually do like. So number 10, this is another one that I do own. Number 10 is Obscured by Clouds from 1972. It's soundtrack to the French film La Vallée, I believe. Yeah, it's a good album. It's got When You're In, Burning Bridges, What's Other Deal, Childhood's End, 3-4. You know, it's a good album. Not necessarily a favourite, but it is a good album. It is a good album. Although I don't play it very often, it is a good album. Number 9 is Atom Heart Mother from 1970. I think this is an underrated album. Pink Floyd themselves actually really hate this album. This is an album that they're not proud of at all, but I really like this album. I think it's a great album. And yeah, the track, the title track, Atom Heart Mother, although it is very avant-garde, I actually do like it. I actually think it's a lot better than most of the tracks from Umaguma. You know, I do think it goes on a bit too long, but it's definitely better than anything from Umaguma. And it also has If, which is a great acoustic by Roger Waters. Fat Old Sun is a fantastic song. Summer 68. And Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, which it's a weird track. It's basically just sound effects of a guy in his kitchen frying eggs, eating cereal, but it's amusing. So yeah, this is a great album. I do enjoy Atom Heart Mother quite a lot. And then number 8 is More. So it's the soundtrack to the film of the same name. And yeah, this is the first of their two soundtracks, and I do like this one just a bit better than Obscured by Clouds. And, well, actually, technically, there's three soundtracks because they also did some music for Zabriskie Point, but I didn't include that because Zabriskie Point, it has other bands on it as well, like the Great Grateful Dead are on there. But Obscured by Clouds and more, it's all Pink Floyd. It's all new stuff by Pink Floyd. And yeah, there's some great songs on here. Cymbeline is a great track. Green is the Colour. The Nile song. Up the Khyber. It's really just an underrated album. I think a lot of people dismiss this album because it's a film soundtrack. And yeah, but you know, I love the album really. I actually do enjoy listening to this one a lot. And the Nile song is probably my favourite song on this album. It's the heaviest song that Pink Floyd's ever done. You know, it's a very hard rock song. You know, it's got such a crunching guitar riff and David Gilmour's screaming vocals. You know, it's the heaviest song they've done, and it's fantastic. So yeah, I actually do love this album, and it's one of those albums I think it's worthy of the top 10. So yeah, that's number 8, More. Number 7, I know people would have this a lot higher, but number 7 is Medal from 1971. This is a classic album. This is the album where Pink Floyd kind of really started coming into their own. Like, some would say this was the beginning of the classic era. But they did have some great albums before this. But yeah, this is a great album. It's got echoes. You know, it's 24 minutes long, but it's a great song though. It's amazing. And it's got One of These Days, Saint-Tropez. You know, great tracks. The only track on here I'm not too keen on is Seamus. I mean, it's not a bad song. It's got the dog barking sound effects, which does get a bit annoying after a while. You know, if they could take that out, then it would be a good song. But yeah, I love Medal, and there's not really anything that I can say about it that hasn't been said, but it's a classic Pink Floyd album. And yeah. Number 6, this is another one that might come as a shock, because I know people would have this higher. Number 6 is Animals from 1977. It's a great album. Pigs on the Wing is a great song. Dogs, sheep, you know. It's a great concept album, you know. Basically referring to, like, the term animals, it's referring to society. You know, like, people in society who are, like, not nice people. But yeah, it's a great album. It's very dark, but it's fantastic. And it's got that iconic cover, you know, the inflatable pig flying up above the Battersea power station. So yeah, Animals is a fantastic album. So now we're into the top 5. Number 5, I do own number 5, by the way, is Wish You Were Here from 1975. It's got such an iconic cover, the man on fire shaking hands with the businessman. Yeah, this is a great follow-up to Dark Side of the Moon. It's got Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which they wrote about Syd Barrett. It's 9 parts, so it starts off with Shine On You Crazy Diamonds parts 1 through 5. You got Welcome to the Machine, which is really good. Have a Cigar is great. Have a Cigar has Roy Harper on vocals, so I think this is the only Pink Floyd song with a guest lead vocalist, so none of the members of Pink Floyd actually sing on this one. Apparently because David Gilmour or Roger Waters struggled to sing this one, so you know, Roy Harper he was visiting them in the studio, so he sang the lead vocals on this one. But yeah, it's a great track. And the title track, Wish You Were Here, is lovely. You know, it's great acoustic by David Gilmour, and that song is also about Syd Barrett. And Syd Barrett actually, he visited them in the studio when they were working on this album. You know, he'd already been fired from the band 7 years before, but he just unexpectedly showed up in the studio, and yeah, but he he was completely shaven. You know, his eyebrows, he'd shaved his eyebrows off, his hair, everything. There's actually a photo of him with his shaved head and his shaved eyebrows. It's really sad that he, what happened to Syd, but and none of them recognised him when he came in. I think it took them at least a few minutes to actually recognise who he was, but yeah. And then you got Shine On You Crazy Diamonds Part 6 through 9. So yeah, great. It's a great album. It's a classic, and it's a must-have. And number 4, it's probably a shock to see this one in the top 5, but I love this album. Number 4 is Saucer Full of Secrets from 1968. So this is their second album, and I love this album. I think it's underrated. It's a transitional album. It's the album where Syd Barrett is leaving the group and then David Gilmour joins. So Syd Barrett only appears on 2 tracks. So he appears on Jug Band Blues, which probably my favourite track on here. It's the only track on the album where he sings lead vocal. It's quite a sad song as well, because in the lyrics he's basically singing about, when he was singing this song, he was very aware of what was happening to him, of his mental health at the time. And he does also appear on Remember a Day, but Richard Wright actually sings Remember a Day, but Syd Barrett does play guitar on the track. And that's another one of my favourite tracks. And it's actually recorded during the Piper of the Gates of Dawn sessions, but it ended up on here instead. Let There Be More Light is a great track. Set Controls for the Heart of the Sun. Corporal Clegg, which I know everybody hates Corporal Clegg, but I love that track. Especially, I think a lot of people hate it because of the kazoo solo that's on it, but I love it. And Seesaw, which is a beautiful song by Richard Wright. It's very haunting, very hypnotic, but it's a great track. The only track on here I'm not worried about is the title track, Saucer Full of Secrets. It's really just a long instrumental that doesn't really do much for me. But apart from that, it doesn't detract from how great this album really is. And number 3, I know most people will probably have this at number 1. But number 3 is the masterpiece, Dark Side of the Moon, 1973. It celebrated its 50th anniversary this year. Everybody owns Dark Side of the Moon, and if they don't, they should. I'm only joking. You can own what you like. But yeah, there's not really much I can say about this, because everything I could say about this has already been said. It is just a masterpiece. It's got Money, which is it's probably my favourite track from here. Time, Breathe. Breathe is a great track. Brain Damage, Eclipse, Us and Them, Any Colour You Like. There's really not a bad track on here. It's got that iconic cover as well, the prism. Yeah, love Dark Side of the Moon. Number 2 is The Wall from 1979. This is a double album. And yeah, I love The Wall. This was kind of my introduction to Pink Floyd, which is why I had to have it at number 2. But yeah, it's got some great tracks. It's got Comfortably Numb, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 1, 2 and 3. All 3 parts are fantastic. Young Lust is fantastic. In the Flesh, Mother, Hey You. It's just fantastic. it's one of those albums you have to listen to it as a whole. Well, I think all these albums really, you have to listen to them as a whole. You can't pick individual songs. You have. This is one of these albums that you need to experience from start to finish. And yeah, and yeah, I don't own this one, as you can see, but I have the movie. I have the film on DVD, which is great. But yeah, I will get the album eventually. But yeah, I love The Wall. Some say it's overrated, but nah, it's a classic. Which leaves me with number one, and you're going to be surprised at what the number one choice is. It's their first album, Piper of the Gates of Dawn, from 1967. But hear me out. I mean, there's literally nothing else like this in Pink Floyd's catalogue. No, I have a huge fondness for Syd Barrett. I am a huge Syd Barrett fan, and this album is just, it's really nothing like anything else they did afterwards. It's very psychedelic, it's very British, it's very childish as well. But I love this. It's got songs like Bike, The Gnome, Scarecrow, Matilda Mother. Some of these songs are kind of like nursery rhyme, but they're done so well. They're very, it's just, it's trippy sound. There's loads of sound effects on this album. And you've also got stuff like Astronomy Domini, which is brilliant. And Chapter 24, which is my favourite Pink Floyd song. It's amazing. So yeah, I love Piper of the Gates of Dawn, and I think it always has been my favourite Pink Floyd album. I love it. And yeah, I don't own it, but I actually do have it. I have it arriving in the post. It's actually, my girlfriend actually got it for me for my birthday back in September. But because she lives in America, it's obviously, it's taking a long time to arrive. But yeah, it's coming, and I will be doing an unboxing video here on this channel when it does arrive. Yeah. So that's my ranking of the 15 studio albums by Pink Floyd. And I hope you enjoyed this ranking, and let me know how you would rank them. And I will see you again very soon.